Judge, we're too short of a quorum right now, so I'm working on that.
All right. Judge Hoffman, how are you?
You need to zoom out. You're too close to the camera.
Yeah, I know. This is just how I look. Sorry about that.
Much better. Can't you scoot your chair back about 2 feet? Perfect.
I sure can. The beauty about that is it makes you all blurry, so that works really well for me.
I see.
It also makes you go from one chin to about 4.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
that's fair.
When you lean back and stuck your face back.
We don't want
Yeah,
that.
there you go.
I'll be back. All right.
Judge, we just need one more. I'm waiting to see.
Judge Dominguez, good to see you.
Good morning, everyone. Well, I guess it's afternoon over there, but
It is by 1 minute. It's closer to 5 o'clock than 8 o'clock, so we're happy with that here.
Here.
Michelle, how are you?
Well, thanks. Are y'all busy?
Oh, I never know how to answer that question.
Well,
Let's
it's
just-
the
yes.
push before the holidays is always a little crazy.
That's true. That's true. Scott, how are you?
Scott is on mute.
Doing great, Judge. Good to see you.
You too. David, nice to see you.
Hello, Judge.
Judge McKenzie is on here without video. She is in an unstable location, but she is present. We do have a quorum, Judge. Let me start recording. And I've already started the live stream, Judge.
I will call to order at this time the meeting of the Oversight Committee of the Far West Texas Regional Public Defender Office. It is 12:01 on November 15th. The agenda and public notice.
Judge, no one can hear you. No one can hear you.
What?
Something just happened to your audio.
We
Just
can hear you, but
confirm.
you sound very echoey and very, very far away.
All right, I'm not sure what that was about. Let's see the.
It's very annoying.
Well, I bet it is. How's that? Is that any better?
Yes.
It's probably because I followed Judge Hoffman's advice and moved further back away from the microphone, causing problems. So we'll try that again. Take 2. I'm calling to order the meeting of the Oversight Committee of the Far West Texas Regional Public Defender Office. It is now 12:02 on November 15th of 2023. And I will note that the public notice and agenda were signed and posted as required by law, with sufficient opportunity in advance for the public to be aware and attend. We do have a quorum, and so we are ready to proceed. Our first meaningful item is number 3, which is the Chief's report, and I'll invite James McDermott, our Chief Public Defender, to give that report at this time. James, go ahead.
Obviously, I'll have a lot to talk about the office space, but to update everybody on the budget year and the staffing, we have hired and has started the new felony lawyer. Some of you have met him already. Phil Baker is a 30-year experienced lawyer who moved here from Round Top. He just bought a house over the weekend. We're very excited that he's here. He brings a lot of skills in relation to DWI and drug cases. And seeing as I've spent most of my career trying child sex cases, it turns out cross-examining a lab tech is not among my strongest skills. So we're really excited to have him here. We have also filled the new administrative assistant position locally, as well as the new caseworker. The mental health, as you remember from the grant, we're supposed to have 2 social workers. We did not get adequate applications for that. As office, we decided to hire at a slightly less salary a caseworker, and that is Kim Baeza, who comes from the county judge's office in Brewster County, and she has experience working at MHMR locally. And we are also really excited to have her, the new administrative assistant, Savannah Granger, and she just fit in like she'd been here forever. So that is great news. I think that puts us on track to really be handling the cases the way that we want to in the short term. I know that Judge Dominguez, because of his location, can have some irregularities in docket that have made it difficult for us to schedule around, and having Phil here helps us solve that problem, and we're really excited for that. We do, for the 3 other positions, we did not get applications for people that were felony qualified. I decided to advertise these for entry level and pay them as such. We do have 3 law students who are set to start in May. And we're excited. They're excited to come. I think the idea of attracting people when they're not going to be the only new person, the only person their age moving to the area, made it easier for the 3 of them each to make the choice to come. One is from Texas A&M in Fort Worth. One is from SMU in Dallas, and one is from Tulane in New Orleans. And so it also is a little affirming to me, because it feels like we're recruiting from the big leagues now a little bit. And that's exciting to me. I will talk to Edwin separately. I think he was out earlier this week about some of the funding issues with the ARPA grant and how to arrange that. Because that's one of the positions we're at, fill with entry level. But the office is excited. These people are texting me and asking questions and have communication with each other now. And it's just, it's so gratifying to feel like there's a future here that not only is sustainable for the long run, but can really be teaching new lawyers how to do it the way that we think it needs to be done, and putting them out here to service these communities. So we're just thrilled. That is the main focus of my report right now. Megan Lavoie is joining us now, Judge.
Excellent.
So that is, I think that's the sum of my report, but if anybody has any questions, I will tell you that my next step of sort of organizing of the office is I have reviewed the financials with Culberson County from the last fiscal year. I've done the corrections. As soon as those corrections have been done on the treasurer and auditor side, I will be going through and do analysis with Edwin about what dollars are attributed to what grants, and be able to make a report sometime in the next 2 months about monies that were not spent, funds that were not spent in the last fiscal year, so that we can have a discussion about what to do with those dollars. That is a long-term project for me and Edwin, and I just need to thank him for his patience on that, because I'm always, I think, the last person in the state. We were late, and none of the county judges are here except Judge McKenzie, but we were late on the IDER reporting this year because, as should be no surprise, nobody here, we didn't have time this year to keep up adequately with the database. I spent the last 2 weeks almost every day, including the weekends, just going through and closing cases and making sure our data was as accurate as I could make it be. And I did produce those IDER numbers to the counties on Monday, and copied Edwin. Of course, Edwin was not in the office, so I could have waited 2 more days. But that, I think the data now is up to date. I'll tell you preliminary, what it shows is not a surprise. We closed cases last year at a slightly higher rate than would be expected for having 2 full-time lawyers. So about 150 to 160 cases we closed. I will have a more full analysis coming up soon. That's the thing I will do after I do the financials. I'd like to see, I need to make sure that we're all on the same page as to where the unindicted cases are, what those numbers are that are coming down the pike, and what that might be looking like, and what the trends are as far as case openings this year. I can tell you that in Brewster County, in Jeff Davis County, in Culberson County, and in Presidio County, on the felony cases, we are almost entirely up to date. If the case has been indicted or the information has been filed, every case that is possible to be closed has been closed, and the only things that are pending are in the normal schedule of case presentation or have been announced for trial. But I don't believe that we are behind. I do not want to give that as an argument to cut the staffing that I just asked for. I think this has been a heroic effort, in a large part to Paul. While I was having to do a lot of data and a lot of financial work this year, Paul really picked up and did a heroic effort on handling cases. And so, but I think we have a handle on everything that has been filed, and we've got an immense amount. I think Cuthbert County, just to spitball, when I looked at it over the weekend, we're somewhere between 300 and 350 unindicted cases in felony court. So that's my report. I promised 2 minutes ago I was at the end of my report, and I clearly lied.
All right. Does anyone here have any questions for the chief regarding his report? Noticing that we're going to hold off right now on the office space issue until we get to the next agenda item. Any questions for James? All right. I don't see any hands or unmutings going on, so I'm going to move on to item number 4, a discussion and possible action regarding primary office space to include line item adjustments to the 23-24 budget if necessary. Mr. McDermott, go ahead.
I gave you all a report last night. Sorry that was late. It just, the data was also important for me to get through. I have, as I laid out in the report, Brewster County gave us last month at Commissioner's Court a deadline to vacate at January 1st or start paying rent of $5,000 a month. For comparison, so you understand, so the context, the current office space that we're in, and I think maybe Judge Ferguson, Mr. Ortiz, and Edwin are the only ones who've actually been in it. And that's because Judge Ferguson's been across the street. Is that we're in about 1,300 square feet. Right now we have, I think, 9 people in here. We're going to have 13. Office space estimators that we have done online have suggested that for us we need about 4,500 square feet. I will tell you that the layout of our office is such that I have a private office, Paul has a private office, and there's no other privacy here. If we've got 3 people on the phone, that it's just not possible to have 3 people on the phone at the same time here. It has been too small for a while, but I have made it work because I've tried to be sensitive to the costs to the counties, and knowing that Brewster County was giving us this contribution in kind, that's no longer possible. So as of January 1st, our rent for an inadequate space would be $5,000 a month. That includes electricity and water. And for a space that's inadequate in size. Given those restrictions, I think I did as diligent a search as I could. I looked in Fort Davis. I think it's no surprise that Marfa has nothing affordable for a program like ours if it was not a county building, and there's no county space in Presidio County. And so what I presented in my report were the 3 things that I looked at that could have been serious options. I'll be clear that one of them, which is listed in your report as bargain barn, is not listed for rent, and the landlord or the owner has not said that they would sign a lease. It is currently for sale, and I believe that they want to sell it. It is also approximately twice the size of what we need. And GSA for the federal government says there are major structural problems and they would not let a federal agency, the federal defenders, use that space. And the other option besides the one that I favor is a building that is about half a mile from our current office, so about half a mile from the courthouse in Brewster County. It is too small, about 3,000 square feet. GSA has also not, the federal defenders actually used to be in that building and the GSA made them move because there were major repair issues that the landlord was unresponsive to, including several years of water leaks, and mold and other problems. The only attractive portion of that option is that the landlord is willing, or the owner is willing to lease it for $2,500 a month, no bills paid, and not paying for any build out. And I think I put in the report $30,000, but my guess is more, and he would not do, the lease for him would not include his responsibility for repairs either. Any repairs to the structure over the course of the lease would be the responsibility of the tenant. So no bills paid, including property taxes, no utilities paid, no build out. And so that looked to me like an untenable option. It's also too small, which leaves us with the only other option I could find if it was not the grocery store, which is what, 30,000 square feet. So not an option. Is the Alpine guest quarters, which are across the street from the courthouse in Brewster County. It is approximately the right size. It is a building that was originally the hospital for the county. I think it was built almost exactly 100 years ago. It is currently being used as Airbnbs, and so it's been divided into 4 separate units. That space is currently workable. Any build out that would be required, which would be creating doorways and taking out 3 kitchens, I think could be done around us. I have toured the property. I think we could work in there while things like that were happening. Which means to me that it is currently fairly move-in ready. $7,500 a month. That would be all bills paid, including maintenance and repairs. We would just be responsible for phone and internet. Build out for that is estimated, and she has had somebody look at it, between $5,000 and $12,000. Really, it's creating some doorways and taking out some kitchens. That's all I think that is really needed. I have broken out in the report what I think each county's contribution would be to rent as part of their contribution to the office in the next fiscal year. That is not the increase that they will see next year. That is just whatever their bill is next year. That's the cost that would be attributable to the county. The annual rent at $7,500 a month is $90,000. TIDC's contribution at our current contribution rate for the main grant, not for all grants, but just for the main grant, would lead the TIDC contribution that we'd be asking for at $62,800. At the current reimbursement rates set by the agreement that was made 6.5 years ago between the counties, the largest would be for Brewster at $12,300. The smallest would be for Jeff Davis at almost $2,200 a year, not a month, a year. And the numbers in between: Culberson a little over 3,000, Jeff Davis a little over 2,000, Hudspeth County 5,100, and Presidio County at 4,400. I think a couple things. I have spoken. Judge Hennington is not here, but I've spoken to him and about this, and he told me that I could represent to the board that he believed that this was a satisfactory rent for Brewster County. I've spoken extensively with Judge Evans from Jeff Davis County, who believes that that is appropriate for his county as well and could be done. Judge McKenzie is here. I don't know how strong her signal is, but I have spoken to her and gotten her approval as well. And Judge McKenzie, correct me obviously if I'm wrong. I have spoken with Judge Arias. The only judge I did not speak with was Judge Portillo. I attempted this morning to get communication with him and was not able to get full feedback from him. But I did make sure that he knew this meeting was happening and that he'd received my report. And I summarized for him in text what these numbers were. My recommendation, so then I will tell you as far as finances, because I'm hiring entry-level people, and two of those positions were, one was funded at 75,000 and the other was funded, I think now for 100,000. When I add up the salaries that we would not be spending plus the fringe benefits that we'd not be spending for the months this year on those two salaries, and that's not including the ARPA funded position. I specifically exclude that one because that money is not transferable for other purposes. But just for those two salaries that are in our main grant, that we will not spend in this current fiscal year's budget more. How do I say that correctly? We will save more than the cost that this year's rent would be for January through the end of the fiscal year. That number more specifically is, I believe that we would have unspent in this fiscal year $208,000. No, I'm sorry. I think we will not spend $121,000. I think rent for the remainder of this fiscal year, starting in January, would be $67,500, and that would still leave room for any build-out expenses up to the $12,000 and incidentals related to moving supplies and packing and stuff like that. I have spoken to Ronnie Dodson, the sheriff of Brewster County, who has told me that he can make inmates for Brewster County available to do the move itself. And so I will go with that at the time. I think that if that fell through, there would be enough money here to pay for a mover, because it's really just picking things up and moving them across the street at this point. This new space is basically cat a corner to where we are now. So my proposal is that I am allowed to reallocate the money from those unused salaries that we sign a lease for this building, the Alpine Guest Lofts, and that I am able to use the money that I project to not spend this year for lease and for moving expenses. Next year's budget would then reflect a line item for rent. So I believe the first step here would be this board, and then I would work with Edwin for what is needed for the TIDC, for the commission, and what they need in order to get approval from them. I have spoken, I think, with Scott and Edwin already, and so none of this, I believe, is a surprise to them, and they were generally aware of the numbers. I spoke to them both directly, so I don't expect, based on those conversations, sorry, there's a train. I don't expect, based on those conversations, that I would encounter problems in Austin, but both Edwin and Scott are here, so they can correct me if there's something else to clarify there. But that's my recommendation, and I believe we could move in around the beginning of the year.
James, can I ask a question real quick about timing? Our board meeting is the 7th, I believe, of December, is coming up pretty soon. Are you going to have to? Could you hold off on signing a lease until then? Is there any other party that's kind of going after this? My concern is that if our board does have any concerns or is unwilling to augment the grant in the out years, that that you would want to know that before you signed on the dotted line.
Right. Yes. The landlord is aware of our funding sources and my needs for approvals. She has a lawyer who's drafted the documents for the lease. I've spoken to him because he was not fully aware of the restrictions needed for county contracting. And so I told him the things that I thought were needed in such a contract. Yes, I will. The only thing I would say, yes, I can. The short answer is yes, I can. The addendum to that is, I would guess that if we're not moving in January, that we will all start working from home then. So that's just a thing. That's my alternative plan at this point, is for us to all work from home.
Well, I know that from the beginning of the program, when we first funded this office, it was pointed out that the Brewster space was offered in kind and that there wasn't a line item in the budget for rent, but that was always flagged as something that was not necessarily permanent and would likely change at some point. So certainly you all have, kept us in the loop and notified us. And from my perspective, I don't anticipate any problems, but as you all know, the board makes the final decisions. So my only reason for my question was we wouldn't be able to give you a rock solid answer until the board meeting in December. Now, the reallocation issue is more straightforward, but I think that we need board approval because it's going to affect our continuing grant obligations to the program in the subsequent years. That's why we would be going to the board.
Absolutely, and I can work with the things that you need for that, but and I have no concern that Judge Arias will work with me closely in making sure I get the proper proposal to you to present to them. And I can also be there if it's helpful for the board to be able to ask questions. Of course, I think the main issue is what you just pointed out. We've had 6 years of no line item for rent.
Yeah.
And whether this space was enough for us or not, Brewster County no longer wants to contribute that.
Any other questions for Mr. McDermott? All right, I will entertain a motion if there is one to be made.
I move that we accept the recommendation to enter into this lease. And I don't know if my motion needs to include the caveat that it's obviously subject to TIDC approval. I probably should include that language just to be safe. That's my motion.
I'll second that.
All right, for discussion purposes, would you entertain a friendly amendment to permit Mr. McDermott to do a line item budget shift from unused funds as approved by the Indigent Defense Commission to a rent line item to cover those costs?
Only because it was a friendly amendment and not a hostile one. Absolutely.
Thank you very much. So do I have a second to the motion as amended?
I'll second that.
All right, it's now time for discussion. The only discussion I want to add is that this does not seem to be unique in Brewster County to the Public Defender Office. My understanding is that they have given notice to all offices connected to the justice system that they're out of county space. They're moving out of county space. So that would include adult probation, juvenile probation, the district attorney's office, and the public defender office. I'm not sure what the shift is of priorities in the Brewster County leadership, but the eviction of the public defender office is part of a grander plan to evict all of the offices connected in any way to adult, juvenile, misdemeanor, or felony court. So,
Judge, if I may supplement that too, I think the county has extended that to all departments that are not technically Brewster County departments. So the appraisal district has also been given an eviction notice. And so as far as I'm aware right now, it's the public defender, the district attorney, adult probation, juvenile probation, the appraisal district. I believe there were some discussions even with the district clerk. I think, Judge, based on my knowledge of conversations, I think there was also some discussion about the location of your office in Brewster County as well.
So for purposes of long-term stability of the program, I think it is to the benefit of the department to get out of any space that is subject to the control of the current leadership in that county. I truly have no insight on why these changes are being made, but my interest here today is in the longevity and the stability of this department, and not just for one county, but for all 5 counties, both district courts, 5 county courts. It's too important. So I think this move is a good move for the department.
I don't
Thank
know.
you for that.
I'm sorry for interrupting. I don't know if it's foolish or brilliant on the part of the county to go after their tax person, but that's the discussion for another day. I mean, I guess you can motivate them to raise tax. I don't know. Anyway, but I concur with your statements, Judge. I mean, if only we could move all of our staff to live in Hudspeth County, probably the cost of living and all of these issues, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Not likely.
My understanding is that Judge McKenzie has told me there's not enough
Hey now.
water for any additional people in Hudspeth County.
Judge McKenzie, I heard your voice there. Did you want to jump in?
I said, hey now. If we can get water, we can get people. We just don't have the water.
All right. Any further discussion on the motion before I call for the vote? Any other thoughts? All right, hearing none, I will call for the vote. All those in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye, please.
Aye.
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 Anyone indicating nay, please say nay. Hearing none, the vote passes, and that vote has passed unanimously. We should note that there will also be some additional efforts that will be required. There could be the cost of movers. I don't know that the county is going to lend its assistance through either maintenance or trustees. We simply don't know that. But I think, Mr. McDermott, in your budget, you should have sufficient funds to hire who you need to hire if necessary. I do want to say to you, as much as I know that y'all are driven and dedicated, I do not want to see you or your staff carrying furniture out of one building 2 blocks away into another.
Thank you, Judge. I'm now 51 years old and I don't want to do that either. But I do have enough money, and there is a local person here who is running a small moving company, and I can call him today to try and get an estimate.
All right. Good.
Judge Ferguson or James, can y'all remind me, am I a voting member? And do I need to just abstain? I'd like to abstain if I am a voting member on that last vote.
I believe one member of TIDC is a voting member of the board. Am I correct, Mr. McDermott?
Yes, sir.
So
Okay.
either you, Mr. Ehlers, or Edwin, either one of you could be a vote, or you are free to abstain, although we do have you as a voting member because we value the input of TIDC.
Great. I appreciate that. On this matter, I would like to abstain.
All right, your abstention is noted.
Likewise, Judge, I did not realize that I was a voting member, so I would need to abstain until the board grants approval for the request, but certainly understand where the request is coming from and it's needed.
Understood. Your abstentions noted for the record. All right, now we are to number 5, which is public comment. Mr. McDermott, are you aware of any member of the public who has signed up or requested the right to speak?
No, sir.
I will note that there does not appear to be any member of the public here. Is there anyone else in the waiting room, Mr. McDermott?
No, sir.
Then we have reached number 6, which is adjournment. I will entertain a request to adjourn.
So moved.
We have reached the bottom of the agenda and all business is concluded. Therefore, no vote on the motion is needed. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Good to see everybody.
Thank you all.
everybody.
Bye. Have a good one.
Take care.